What happens when you hurl your entire army at the fastest gunslinger in American chess? Walter Brown is about to make you very, very glad you asked. Our story opens with the dullest move in chess, a pawn ambling out to e4. Don't worry, things get unhinged fast. Enter Walter Brown, the American grandmaster who plays blitz like the board owes him money, firing back a pawn to c5. The Sicilian. Calmly, White develops a knight to f3. Enjoy this sensible move, because it's the last one for a while. Brown nudges a pawn to d6, quietly building his little fortress. He's seen this movie before. Forward marches the pawn to d4, cracking the center wide open. Now we're cooking. Snap! Brown's pawn gobbles the d4 pawn like a free sample. Rude but legal. Back comes the knight, sliding to d4 to grab the pawn. Even trade, everyone's happy. For now. Out hops a black knight to f6, eyeing the center and minding its own business. Another white knight develops, this one to c3. Textbook play and absolutely zero chill. A little pawn pokes to a 6, the classic Sicilian don't even think about it, to anything near b5. Swinging the bishop to g5, White pins the knight and looks menacing. Looks scary. The computer says, meh. Locking the center, Brown answers with a pawn to e6, giving his king a cozy little box. Now the pawn lunges to f4. Officially, a storm is brewing. You can hear the thunder. Developing his bishop to e7, Brown props up the pinned knight. Slightly slow, but he's feeling fine. Up floats the white queen to f3, joining the mob aimed at the black king. Subtle as a brick. Brown's queen glides to c7, lining up the long diagonal while White loads the cannons. Tucking his king to safety on the queen's side, White guarantees both armies will charge each other. Pure chaos energy. Regrouping, a black knight reroutes to d7. No panic for Brown. Brown never panics. Here comes the pawn to g4, the full kitchen sink attack. White's throwing pawns like confetti. Possibly too much confetti. Counterpunch. Brown fires a pawn to b5, opening lines toward White's king. Two can storm this castle. White's bishop snaps off the knight on f6, trading to keep the attack rolling. Recapturing instantly, Brown's other knight lands on f6. Materials level, tension is not. Shoving the pawn to g5, White kicks at the knight and wants that king naked. Bit forward, honestly, the knight scoots back to d7, dodging the pawn. Brown's pieces do a lot of polite shuffling under fire. Jab, a pawn jumps to f5, hammering at e6. The attack looks terrifying. Keyword, looks cheeky. Brown's bishop grabs the g5 pawn with check. He's poking the bear and grinning. Stepping aside, White's king tiptoes to b1, out of the check and bracing for the storm. Dead center it goes, a black knight planting itself on e5 like it pays rent there. Hunting now, White's queen swings to h5, prowling around the black king. He smells blood. Calm as ever, Brown's queen slips back to d8, babysitting the defense. No drama, just vibes. Here's the big one. White flings the knight onto e6, sacrificing it to rip the black king's house wide open. Spectacular. Also slightly desperate. Thanks for the donation. Brown's bishop calmly snaps up the knight on e6. Right back, the pawn recaptures on e6, jamming itself next to the black king. Annoying little thing. Building a wall, Brown pushes a pawn to g6 and refuses to look the least bit impressed. Still swinging, White lunges the pawn to f7 with check, poking the king one more time. Casually, Brown's king walks up and eats the pawn on f7, strolling through the war zone in slippers. Backpedaling, the white queen drops to e2. The attack is sputtering, and he can feel it. His king ambles over to g7, finding a snug corner. The storm rolled right past him. Last roll of the dice, White hops a knight to d5. He's running clean out of thunder. Lifting a rook to a 7, Brown prepares to swing it across. Now the hunter becomes the haunted. Wandering, White's bishop slides to h3, hunting for a plan that already left the building. Onto the open file drops Brown's other rook, landing on f8. The pieces are coming home to roost. Contesting the file, White parks a rook on f1. Reasonable. Doomed, but reasonable. Doubling up, brown's rook slides to f7, guarding the king. Tidy. Very tidy. Crash. White's rook smashes into f7 with check, grabbing a rook. A trade, not a knockout. Without blinking, brown recaptures on f7. Pieces swapped, king still cozy. Flailing now, white's bishop pokes to e6, jabbing at the rook. The position knows it's lost. Charging deep, brown's rook barges to f3. A touch greedy, but the man loves a fast attack. Shooing it away, the bishop steps back to g4. A polite little dance. Resetting, brown's rook retreats to f8. He's up material and in absolutely no hurry. Once more, the bishop slides to h3. White's basically pacing the room now. Looking for mischief, brown's bishop hops to h4 on the dark squares. Round and round, white swings a rook back to f1 and the file. Smash! Brown's rook crashes into f1 with check, ripping off the white rook. Scooping it up, the queen recaptures on f1. Fewer pieces, same losing story. Going active, brown's queen swings to g5, eyeing white's king with bad intentions. And here's a real howler. White shoves a pawn to a4, opening his own king's front door. The defense just walked off the job. Pounce, brown's knight dives to c4, lunging at the white king. The hunt is properly on. Scrambling, white's queen drops to d3 to plug holes. There are a lot of holes. Recentering, brown's queen lands on e5. Both sides trade fuzzy moves. Its blitz cut them some slack. Flopping back, white's knight returns to c3. Defensive moves, none of them fixing the draft around his king. Eyeing the long diagonal, brown's bishop swings to f6. Not the sharpest, but the screws keep turning. Grabbing material, white's pawn snaps off the b5 pawn, rearranging chairs you know where. Taking back, brown captures on b5, prying white's king open even wider. Lovely. More fuel. Lurching, the white queen stumbles to d5. Another wobble, his piece is playing jazz and hitting wrong notes. Snack time, brown's queen casually pockets the h2 pawn. The hunt continues. On some lonely errand, white's bishop wanders to d7. Whatever the plan was, defending wasn't in it. Swooping in, brown's queen lands on g1 with check. He's chasing the king now, cleanest swing or not. Fleeing, white's king scurries to a 2. Running out of squares, running out of luck. Check again, brown's queen slides to a 7. The king's being herded like a sheep with somewhere to be. Shuffling back, white's king returns to b1. No good squares left, only less bad ones. Collecting trophies, brown's queen swings back and gobbles the bishop on d7. Scavenging, white's knight takes the b5 pawn. Decked chairs meet Titanic. Bold move, brown's knight snaps off the b2 pawn, right beside the white king. Pretending it's a plan, white's knight hops to d6 and snags a pawn. Tightening the net, brown's queen slides to e7, hitting the knight. Calm as ever. Bouncing back, white's knight returns to b5. The verdict's already in. This king is cooked. Edge of the board, brown's knight wanders to a 4, hunting a way in. Not ideal, but he's miles ahead. Searching still, white's king tiptoes to c1, looking for shelter that simply doesn't exist. Rerouting, the black knight returns to c3, back toward the white king's neighborhood. Trading off, white's knight grabs the c3 knight, but swapping while losing only speeds the ending. Relentless, brown's queen darts to a 3 with check, jabbing at the king again. Hopping away again, white's king lands on d1 like the floor's on fire. Because basically it is. Pocketing it, brown's queen takes the knight on c3. Pieces keep falling off white's side. One desperate lunge. White's queen jumps to d7 with check. Hope is a strategy, apparently. Sidestepping calmly, brown's king walks to h6 out of the check. He's been dodging all game. Chasing ghosts, the white queen drifts to e6, hunting a check that isn't even there. Door closed, brown's bishop slides to g5, shielding the king and snuffing the last threats. Fresh out of ideas, the queen retreats to d5 again. We've seen this square. It didn't help then either. Tables turned, brown's queen swings to f3 with check, and suddenly he's the one doing the hunting. Stumbling, white's king lands on e1, one square from the edge of everything. Cinching the noose, Brown's bishop steps to e3. Almost there, delaying the inevitable. White pushes a pawn to c4, a move so pointless it's almost polite. Setting the trap, Brown's bishop repositions to b6, aiming straight at the white king's hideout. Faceplant incoming. White shoves the pawn to c5, slamming his own escape door shut. Oh no. Oh no. Brown's bishop swings to a 5, check, and the king is trapped with nowhere to run. The fastest gun in American chess just out-calmed the storm.